With intense fighting in South Gaza, an area once known for its safe zones, concerns are growing over possible attacks on these humanitarian zones. Meanwhile, Gaza's health ministry says more than 300 Palestinians were killed in a single day. North Korea is using South Korean facilities in the Kaesong industrial complex without permission and has cleared away debris from the Inter-Korean Joint Liaison Office building, which it blew up in 2020. We take a look at what are its intentions. South Korea's current accounts remain in positive territory for the 6th month in a row in October, as exports are back on an upward trend for the first time in more than a year. It's December 8th, 2023. This is News Center. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. We start with the intense Middle East war. Along with the continuous offensive happening in Southern Gaza, humanitarian concerns are rising about attacks on so-called safe zones in the region. Gaza's health ministry, run by Hamas, says 350 were killed in the past 24 hours due to intense Israeli bombardments. Park Go-nu starts us off.
3 days after Israel expanded its military offensive to Khan Yunis, the largest city in southern Gaza, concerns about possible attacks on the humanitarian zone in South Gaza are now rising. Those concerns come after the Israeli military posted videos, maps, and satellite photos on Thursday local time, saying 14 rockets have been fired toward Israel from several locations in southern Gaza, including Al-Mawasi, where civilians are seeking shelter. The Israel Defense Forces said Hamas militants abused the people of Gaza, utilizing them for its acts of terror from safe zones. The IDF has encouraged civilians to relocate to areas such as Al-Mawasi, one of the few places left to seek safety, producing videos and releasing maps of the area in both Arabic and English since the early days of the war. But an Israeli military spokesman said he could not speak about future operations, and it is not clear yet whether Israel would designate the safe zones as legitimate military targets, as they did previously, portraying the Al-Shifa hospital in northern Gaza as a Hamas command and control center before occupying it. The official added civilians of Gaza were being updated frequently in various ways about Israeli military activities. According to Gaza's health ministry, around 350 Palestinians were killed in IDF attacks, with another 1,900 injured on Thursday alone. It added the cumulative death toll since the start of the armed conflict on October 7th has surpassed 17,100, with 46,000 injured, mostly women and children. Meanwhile, after a guided missile attack by Hezbollah killed a 60-year-old man in northern Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sent a stern warning to the terrorist group.
If Hezbollah chooses to start an all-out war, then it will, by its own hand, turn Beirut and southern Lebanon, not far from here, into Gaza and Khan Yunis.
Park Go-nu, Arirang News.
Top security advisors of South Korea and Japan have discussed the recent progress made in bilateral relations and reaffirmed a willingness to continue enhancing cooperation in security, economy, and people-to-people exchanges. South Korea's Cho Tae-yong met his Japanese counterpart Takewa Akiba on Friday, as Akiba is visiting Seoul for Saturday's trilateral top security advisors meeting between Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo. Discussing North Korea's growing threats, they emphasized the need for a joint response, including trilateral efforts with the U.S. to maintain regional and international peace. The meeting is a follow-up on the Camp David summit earlier this year. There have been signs of North Korea using the facilities of South Korean companies in the Kaesong industrial complex without permission. The North is also demolishing the Inter-Korean Joint Liaison Office building that it blew up back in 2020. Our North Korean affairs correspondent Kim Jong-sil takes a look at what's behind its intention.
South Korea's Ministry of Unification told reporters on Friday that it has detected signs of unauthorized North Korean movement at the Kaesong industrial complex.
Despite repeated warnings from our government, North Korea continues to use the facilities of South Korean companies in the Kaesong industrial complex without authorization. And recently, it's been demolishing the Inter-Korean Joint Liaison Office building that it blew up in 2020.
The spokesperson added that the North will be held responsible for violating the property rights of South Korea. Back in 2020, Pyongyang released a video of it blowing up the Joint Liaison Office used for talks between the two Koreas as a sign of severing an important means of communication with Seoul. In May of this year, the Unification Ministry announced that North Korea had cleaned up remnants of the explosion. The building was then left unattended, but since the end of November, there have been signs that North Korea has begun demolishing it.
In the grand scheme of things, the demolition shows the current state of inter-Korean relations. On the other hand, the North might have strategic intentions to put pressure on the South Korean government.
There were also signs of unauthorized usage of around 30 facilities of South Korean companies at the Kaesong Industrial Complex. This is 3 times the amount that the ministry announced in May.
Kaesong Industrial Complex is one of the very good candidates to bring some kind of economic achievement for the North Korea. So that's why at this moment, North Korea is trying to use the South Korean assets in the Kaesong Industrial Complex.
However, South Korean officials did not pinpoint which companies the facilities belong to. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
The heads of the world's top 2 oil exporters, Saudi Arabia and Russia, spoke with one voice on the need to cut crude output. This comes following a face-to-face meeting on Wednesday between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman during Putin's rare one-day trip to the Middle East. They issued a joint statement that calls all OPEC Plus members to join the oil cuts to stabilize the market for the good of the global economy. The meeting comes after a drop in oil prices despite the OPEC Plus powers vowing for a further output cut. The Kremlin said the two also discussed the fighting in Gaza, Ukraine, and Yemen, and the Iranian nuclear program. On the trade front, South Korea's current account remained in positive territory for the 6th month in a row in October. This as exports were back on an upward trend for the first time in more than a year. Moon Hye-ryun with the details.
South Korea's current account has logged a surplus yet again on the back of improving performance in exports and a decline in imports. Preliminary data released by the Bank of Korea on Friday showed a current account balance of $6.8 billion in October. This is the 6th month in a row for a surplus to be recorded and is also the highest so far this year. The goods account tracking imports and exports experienced a surplus for the 7th straight month as auto exports rose and imports of raw materials fell. Data show that auto exports rose by 21% compared to the same month last year, whereas inbound shipments of gas fell by over 54% and coal by 26%. It's the first time since August 2022 that the country has seen an on-year rise in export value, rising by 7.6% compared to October last year. When comparing the goods balance between January and October this year and last year, this year's export value was lower, but as the import value was also lower, the overall goods balance for the period was higher this year. However, the services balance, which includes earnings and spending on overseas trips and transport, recorded a deficit of $1.25 billion. The travel and transportation sectors showed significant declines on year, with the latter falling from a $1 billion surplus to a $300 million deficit this October. So far this year, the services balance logged a deficit of over $20 billion, which is a sharp decline compared to the same period in 2022, when a deficit of just over $3 billion was recorded. Increased outbound travel as a result of eased COVID-19 restrictions has led to a continued travel balance deficit, but the decline is slowing.
The trade balance deficit has decreased with more tourists from Southeast Asia and Japan.
Meanwhile, the primary account balance responsible for monitoring foreign workers' wages and overseas dividend payments reported a surplus of nearly $3 billion, further contributing to the overall current account surplus. Moon Hye-ryun, Arirang News.
As the regular National Assembly session concludes on December 9th, the nation's main rival political parties have agreed to hold a 30-day extraordinary session starting next Monday. 3 plenary sessions will be held on December 20th and 28th, as well as January 9th. The session is on the 20th aims to finalize next year's budget as lawmakers fail to meet the December 2nd deadline. 2 other sessions on the 28th and January 9th will focus on processing bills related to people's livelihoods. During the last regular National Assembly plenary session today, lawmakers passed a confirmation motion for the top court's Chief Justice nominee Cho Hee-dae, ending a 2-month-long vacancy. In the meantime, 4 contentious bills, including a pro-labor bill which President Yoon vetoed last week, were also put to a revote and all were voted down. Our National Assembly correspondent Shin Se-byuk explains.
The National Assembly has approved the appointment of Cho Hee-dae as the next Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. In the last regular plenary session of the Assembly on Friday, attended by 292 lawmakers, a confirmation hearing report on Cho was passed by 264 voted to 18, with 10 abstentions. This came 2 months after lawmakers rejected the previous nominee Lee Gyun-yong, the first such rejection in 35 years. Meanwhile, 4 contentious bills were put for a revote following President Yoon Suk-yeol's veto of them last Friday, of which all were voted down. These bills include the pro-labor Yellow Envelope Bill and 3 revisions to broadcasting laws. To override a presidential veto, a 2/3 majority from a plenary session with more than half of all lawmakers in attendance is needed. The ruling People Power Party said the proposed labor bill violates legal principles, while the main opposition Democratic Party claimed the proposed law guarantees workers' rights.
The proposed labor law not only goes against the principles of legal clarity, proportionality, and the no penalty without a law rule, but also violates the principle of equality. It's a law that shakes the foundation of the long-established labor management relationship in our society, only serving to escalate social conflicts.
This bill simply guarantees workers the right to negotiate with their employers to rectify injustices, unfair conditions and an unjust environment. What makes you think the National Assembly has the right to declare that these workers don't have the qualifications for such rights?
As for the revisions to the broadcasting laws, the ruling party stated that these changes would severely undermine fairness and content delivery. In contrast, the Democratic Party, which holds the majority, argued that such amendments were necessary to ensure press freedom. This marks the 3rd time that bills have been scrapped due to President Yoon's exercising his veto right since his inauguration. Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
South Korea will launch a pan-governmental task force to address rising concerns about the increasing number of children with respiratory illnesses. At a meeting today, Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency Commissioner Ji Young-mi said that the task force will be responsible for monitoring respiratory diseases and managing medicine supplies and hospital beds. This comes as cases of children infected with Mycoplasma pneumonia, a leading cause of pneumonia, have begun to rise in schools, kindergartens, and daycare centers. However, she cautioned against new pandemic fears as Mycoplasma pneumonia is not a new infectious disease and there are known effective treatments to deal with it. More measures were unveiled today to attract more tourists to the country next year by offering more benefits to visitors. Prime Minister Han Duk-soo led a cabinet meeting on Friday on ways to boost tourism, setting the goal of 20 million tourists visiting South Korea in 2024. Given that 17.5 million people came to the country in 2019, reaching a peak, this would be the highest figures recorded if the goal is met. Foreign nationals from Vietnam, the Philippines, and Indonesia will now be exempt from group electronic visa fees, along with Chinese nationals. The limit for tax-exempt duty-free shopping will also be doubled. And retailers here are going the extra mile to spread the Christmas cheer, hoping the holiday spirit will boost consumption. Our Lee Soo-jin covers their efforts.
Christmas has already arrived in the retail sector as it's using the winter holiday as a last-ditch marketing strategy to boost consumption. South Korea's CCSI, an indicator of how consumers feel about the economy, has been declining since July. And the pessimistic consumer sentiment is being felt by department stores as operating profits of the big three all fell by double digits in the third quarter. To draw consumers, the big three department stores have built replicas of traditional Christmas markets that are bigger than ever. Here in this colossal glass house are more than 20 wooden chalets that sell seasonal beverages and souvenirs reminiscent of Europe's famous Christmas markets. Although it was inspired by Europe, the market also sells popular Korean street foods such as tteokbokki and fish cakes. To maximize holiday season sales, it was open toward the end of November and has already encouraged people to spend money.
Oh, it's so beautiful, it's so cute. I really love it. I'm sure that I'll be back to buy things for sure.
We actually just bought candy apples here and they were even better than what I imagined.
And on weekends, visitors have to wait hours just to get in. It's not just department stores like this one. They've already begun using Christmas as a marketing strategy to boost consumption. Small businesses have also begun to do the same. Inside this traditional market is a cake shop run by a young entrepreneur. In a nod to her store's location, she sells cakes made out of rice cake ingredients instead of flour. She steams the rice cake into a circular shape and is decorated with colorful frosting along with cake toppers that make it look like the cakes that we typically see in bakeries. She says that she started accepting Christmas cake orders early during the second to last week of November.
Even though this type of cake is usually bought by older people, around Christmas the demand goes up because young people also buy it.
One expert says that all these efforts are likely to pay off.
The Christmas markets and cakes will act as a catalyst of sorts that lead people to purchase items not holiday-related as well.
She added that while consumers this year might not have a large disposable income, these early Christmas marketing campaigns will motivate customers to open up their wallets. 이수진, Arirang News.
It's Friday, and that means it's time for our weekly arts and culture segment. We have our culture correspondent, Song Yujin, in the studio. Happy Friday, Yujin.
Happy Friday, Jungmin.
What do you have for us today?
Well, so Jungmin, as the chilly weather sets in, now's the best time of the year to cozy up in our bed or a sofa and catch a good movie or a show. And as we know, the Korean streaming scene is buzzing with options, but we have to get ready for something big because this Tuesday, two local streaming giants, TVing and Wave, signed a deal for a merger. So for this week, here's a sneak peek into how this deal might reshape the Korean content and streaming landscape.
Are we about to witness the birth of Korea's largest streaming service? Local streaming giants TVing and Wave have signed a memorandum of understanding for a merger. CJ ENM's TVing is the second largest domestic streaming platform with 5.1 million monthly active users. SK Square's Wave is fourth with 4.23 million. When combined, their total of more than 9 million expected users would make them the leading domestic streaming service provider. The two rivals coming together was not a surprise. This marks the second merger between local streaming services following TVing's merger with KT's Shijin last December. Industry experts view this as a strategic move for survival.
With the rise of numerous streaming service brands, not only Netflix but also Disney+, there has been constant discussion about the crisis facing domestic services. The merger between TVing and Wave is seen as a way to secure a competitive edge against industry leader Netflix.
In terms of numbers, the merged platform will fall short of Netflix's 11.3 million monthly active users. However, this could change in the long run.
This is exciting news for consumers because they can access a diverse range of content with a single subscription fee. Wave has programs on terrestrial TV channels, while TVing has been building its lineup with entertainment shows and dramas on TVN. On top of that, each platform has its partnerships with streaming services abroad.
This move could also realize the long-envisioned dream of local streaming services, global expansion. Both companies already have the experience and know-how, with CJ acquiring global production studio Endeavor Content and Wave America acquiring US-based video streaming platform Cocoa.
In the case of Netflix, subscriber numbers tend to peak when it releases an original series. This indicates that without compelling original content, a streaming service won't be able to compete globally. There's anticipation that through the merger, the combined investment capacity could increase, which could lead to more original content from the two platforms.
The two companies are expected to finalize a definitive agreement by the middle of next year to conclude the merger process by the end of 2024.
It is a big deal indeed, and Yujin, some people are looking forward to the merger, but are there any concerns about it?
Well, this merger is actually causing a mix of concern and excitement, especially among content creators. The reason is because, on the one hand, it signals fewer opportunities, because having various platforms to showcase their work for content creators also mean that they can compete and get better deals for the proposal. But on the flip side, mergers like this reduce the stress for creators about securing investments. That's because when platforms face financial struggles or operate in the red, it gets tough for them to invest in content creators. So despite the potential for creators to earn less, this could pave the way for a more stable environment, meaning that we'll get to see content consistently being created on platforms.
So the MOU has been signed. What comes next?
Well, the two companies will now have to go through the so-called due diligence, which is a comprehensive assessment process of the deal and operational, financial, legal, and strategic aspects. The exact merger ratio is yet to be confirmed, but local media reports suggest that CJ is set to become the largest shareholder. They also need approval from their board of directors, a process that took 4 months for the TVing and Shijin merger. The deal will also need to get assessment by Korea's Fair Trade Commission, as the shares of two companies combined exceeds 30%.
Our culture correspondent Song Yun, thank you for your report.
Thank you.
The weather feels like March or April, not December. The unseasonably high spells are expected to continue tomorrow. As the temperature rises, the daily temperature differences will be around 15 degrees. Please try to dress up warm in the morning and the evening. The atmosphere on the East Coast will dry up even more. The East and West Coast will have gusty winds of more than 20 meters per second. Please pay special attention to the prevention of large-scale fires. Today, smoke from overseas flew in again, increasing the concentration of ultrafine dust in the west. The air is expected to be murky throughout the weekend in this area. Tomorrow, Seoul and Daegu will start off at 9 degrees Celsius. Daily highs in Seoul will get up to 15, Daegu and Gwangju 19 degrees Celsius. On the weekend, the temperatures will be far higher than usual, so no need to worry about the cold. Rainfall is in the forecast across the country early next week. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is News Center for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session coming up next.
Welcome. 엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? I'm live!
저를 도와주시는 분들이
저희와 함께 해줄 수 있는 세션 분들
아무리 봐도 없지. 텐션 같은데 아니라고 아무도 안 하는 거고.
좋아요.
한국에 오면 먹어야죠. 먹어도 끝이 없는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
Hello everyone, my name is Songkan Luangmuniton. I am the ambassador of the Lao PDR to the Republic of Korea. To me, Korea is a very attractive place. You have kind people, wonderful food, and beautiful sights to see around. That's why so many people around the world want to visit Korea again and again. And certainly, thanks to Arirang, many people understand more about Korea. People about Korean culture, as well as promoting understanding between the nations. I thank Arirang once again for your wonderful job that you have created so far for better understanding between the people of Korea and the world. Thanks to Arirang, we from foreign countries also been able to make Korean people understand more about people. So I look forward to further seeing more interesting program from Arirang in the near future. Thank you very much. 감사합니다. Resonating with the world, Arirang.
자유는 어떤 장소가 아닐 수도 있습니다. 자유는 우리 가슴 속에 있는 것일지도 모르죠. 자유를 찾는다는 건 어쩌면 내 가슴 속, 내 자신을 찾는 것과 같은 의미가 될 수도 있겠네요. 그러니 우리는 언제 어디서든 자유로울 수 있습니다.
Presiding over Monday's cabinet meeting following his latest diplomatic agenda in New York, President Seoul
South Korea's economy will grow.
Central Bank has kept its key interest rate unchanged.
mission complete for Russia's booty. South Korea's Seoul is rallying in hopes of bringing the World Expo 2030.
Arirang.
Hello everyone, it's Friday and you're watching Within the Frame. I'm Kim Bo-kyung. The number of foreign tourists to South Korea is picking up. A total of 1.23 million people visited the country in October, the figure going over the 1 million mark for the fourth consecutive month. The country is expected to have had about 10 million visitors by the end of December. It appears as though most are particularly interested in wearing hanbok, Korea's traditional clothing, eating Korean food, and getting beauty-related services such as nail and eyelash treatments. What do foreign tourists like about South Korea, and what should be done to attract more foreign visitors to the country? For this, we invite Professor Choi Sang-mi from Ewha Women's University. Professor Choi, welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening. And we also have Chris Tharp, contributing writer for National Geographic Traveler magazine. Good to see you, Chris.
Great to be here.
All right, first question to our Professor Choi. So the number of foreign visitors to South Korea remained above 1 million for the fourth consecutive month in October. Could you tell us more about the actual figure and which countries were most of the visitors from?
Yeah, if you look at that current statistics announced by Korean Tourism Organization the last month, it says, more than 200%, the number of visitors increased compared with last year. And if you look at that country, as you asked me, as you can guess easily, that China recorded the most tourists, as a number compared with other country. And the second is United States, and third is Taiwan. So compared to COVID-19 period, we look at, definite recovery of number of tourists visiting Korea this, the period.
Right, I see. So many tourists are coming from China, the U.S., and Taiwan. I see. Now, Professor Choi, one more question. We are expecting to see the number of foreign visitors to go over 10 million this year. What kind of economic effect can a country enjoy from a thriving tourism industry?
If you look at that, the effect, we can look at the perspective. One is direct economic benefit, the other is indirect economic benefits. The first direct economic benefit, we can guess the number of international tourists expends, resources on accommodation, meal, transportation, and entrance fees for tourist attraction. It is, contribute a lot to increase our GDP for the country level. And if you look at that indirect economic benefit perspective, the tourism sector is actually linked with other sectors such as, hospitality, food and beverage, transportation, and retail sector. So we can, expect more sales and, creation of jobs and number of employment generation. Also, we can look for the inflow of foreign currency to our country.
All right, so thriving tourism industry can bring both direct and indirect benefits to the country. Now, Chris, there could be many reasons why foreigners come to South Korea, but one major reason is reportedly the popularity of Korean content. How much of an impact does K-content have on tourists' reasons for coming?
Well, I don't think it can really be overstated, the impact of South Korea's cultural output and how that has attracted visitors. I've seen it really firsthand. I think maybe 10 years ago, primarily you'd have Hallyu mainly impacted countries like the Philippines and Malaysia and Indonesia, Southeast Asian sort of countries. But now Korean content, especially K-pop and dramas and film, has really found its way into Western countries. And this has attracted a lot of visitors. I know personally, I've met people on the streets. I've talked to especially young people who come to South Korea that are really attracted from the shows they've watched or the music that they're really into. And this is natural. I mean, when you listen to music or you see a show that, that really hits you somewhere personally, that draws you to want to visit the place where it was created and experience the world that sort of gave birth to that. I know, like years ago, I started listening to Ethiopian music, and I suddenly became drawn to visit Ethiopia. I made plans to go there and research the country, and I still never visited Ethiopia, but every time I hear that music, I want to go there. And it's the same with other, like Mexican music and some other places that I have visited that I feel really connected to. So I think it's no wonder that Korea's cultural output has kind of become a magnet for visitors here, and it will probably just continue to do so.
Right. Cultural power is definitely having a positive impact over attracting more foreign visitors. Now, Professor Che, that being said, in what ways could K-content be utilized to boost growth in the tourism industry even more?
We can think about various kind of ways Korea's tourism industry related with the K-content, such as K-pop, K-drama, K-beauty, K-fashion, and K-food. If you look at the K-pop and K-drama perspective, you can think about, organized tours of filming location of popular K-drama or places mentioned in the K-pop songs. Also, I can think of a K-beauty and K-fashion experience provided like K-beauty and fashion, makeup, and styling classes. And also, recently, the foreigners interest a lot about the K-food. So if you think about the tourism related to K-food, organized food tours focuses on, Korean cuisine, maybe think about the classes or tasting events, traditional market tour. So we can think about various kind of way to, improve, increase number of tourists in Korea related with this kind of K-contents, I think.
I see your point. Thank you for your suggestions, Professor Che. Now, Chris, let's now take a look at how foreign tourists usually enjoy their trip in South Korea. First, about the region they visit. According to the Culture Ministry, Seoul accounted for more than 80% of visits by foreign tourists, which is more than 4 times compared to other regions. Is this because other regions are not well promoted?
Well, that's part of it, but Seoul is the financial, commercial, artistic, cultural, and political capital of the country. About half the population lives in Seoul. So it should make sense that that's where people are going to at least begin their journey into South Korea. It's just that big. It's kind of like going to England and not visiting London. But a lot of people just exclusively go to Seoul. That's the only place they see, because really, if you ask a lot of foreigners about South Korea, a lot of people would have a hard time naming any other city except for Seoul. It's just the only place they know. So yeah, I think the regions outside of the capital really need to be promoted. And especially, like, I live in Busan. I've lived in Busan for almost 20 years. So I know what it feels like to kind of be in Seoul's shadow. And especially, I've had a lot of people come to Busan, and they're awed at what they see. And they're like, how did I not hear about this? Why did no one tell me how nice this city was? They had to see it themselves to believe it. And there's all sorts of other regions, like, Jeju Island. I was there last winter walking the Jeju Olegil, which is the circuit path around Jeju Island. And that's just a great way to experience Jeju. And of course, places like Gangwon-do, Sokcho is a great town with Soraksan National Park right there with Ulsanbawi rock staring you down. There's this wonderful mystical rock formation. And places like Gyeongju with the history, and Jeonju with the Hanok Mall and the kind of cultural experience you can have there. So yeah, I think Korea could do a better job of promoting not Seoul. And I'm really for that, because Seoul's great, obviously. I love going up there, but there's so much more to see in this country than just the capital.
Right. That being said, Chris, could you give us any suggestions to promote other regional areas other than Seoul, or do you have any recommendation for foreign tourists to visit?
Well, I did mention a few places like, Jeju-do, I think is a must. Because you get everything in Jeju-do. There's history, great food, but also nature. Also Jeollanam-do, places like Gwangju and around there. Jeollanam-do has some of the, with South Jeolla province in English, has some of the best food in South Korea. It's known as kind of like where Korean cuisine really takes off. Also, if anyone ever gets a chance to go to Ulleung-do, which is the island in the East Sea, which is a really, really cool piece of real estate. It's visually stunning. The waters around there are pristine. Again, there's fresh seafood. It's a really special place to visit. So I think each region, through campaigns to the tourist boards and, any sort of way to promote what they have to the world, and not just Korea. And again, maybe more films and dramas to take place outside of Seoul so people can see Korea. Because I think that nothing beats that, really. I think these movies and TV shows are the best ad. They're better than any ad money you could possibly spend otherwise.
Right, I cannot agree more. You do know a lot of places. Well, thank you, Chris, for your recommendations. Chris, now to what they usually do in the country. Seoul-based travel information platform KoreaTrip unveiled data on foreign tourists' consumption trends. And it said many use rental services for hanbok, traditional Korean clothes. What makes hanbok wearing attractive to foreigners?
Well, they're just really colorful and fun. I think, they look really cool. They're so vivid and kind of exciting. And when you visit Korea, Korean people really encourage you to try on a hanbok, to experience their culture through their, traditional dress. So it's a fun way to kind of get a deeper connection to the place that you're visiting. You can kind of feel the history as you stroll around in these, in these garments that go back thousands of years as a kind of cultural signifier of South Korea. So I think it's just a lot of fun, and they look pretty cool.
All right, I cannot agree more that they're cool. Now, Professor Che, they also show interest in getting beauty-related services, including nail and eyelash treatments, and medical tourism to Korea for plastic surgery and dermatology is also popular. Could you tell us more about how such K-beauty-related businesses are enjoying popularity in the inbound tourism industry, and how does it affect the industry?
K-beauty, the people says it has very emphasis on holistic and personalized care. That's why it gained a lot of attention these days in global perspective. So. We can extend that K-beauty not just in a product to beauty and medical service to the beauty, but we can extend to medical services as well. So if you look at the beauty services, the people says that all kind of skincare treatment, nail art, and eyelash extensions. These are very, very high quality services and very personalized care, provided to the tourists. And also if you look at the medical tourism, our medical services has very high standard and quality, and also we provide a state-of-the-art technology and very skilled physicians as well. So that's why we attract more attention from the global tourists to the Korea. So if you look at how these, medical services and beauty services, affect our tourism industry, of course, it can increase the tourist number, and also it can contribute to boost to the related industries such as, hospitality, retail, and transportation as well. And also it can enhance national image as well. And then a lot of jobs can be created related with that, K-beauty industry.
Right, much benefit we can enjoy. Now, Chris, another major thing foreigners enjoy in the country is food. In fact, a survey conducted by the Seoul Tourism Organization says that most foreigners revisit the capital city to taste Korean food again. What makes Korean food so unique?
Well, it's just really diverse and delicious. I really think Korean cuisine is probably the most attractive thing for a lot of people. I think that's like, if you really want to get visitors to Korea, emphasize the food here because it is that good. It was the key for me into this culture. When I arrived in Korea in 2004, I really didn't know anything about Korean food except for a little bit of barbecue and kimchi. Like back in the States where I'm from, the Seattle area, there were a lot of Korean immigrants, but most of them ran Asian restaurants that served Japanese food and Chinese food. They thought the Korean food might be a little too too robust and flavorful for the foreign palate. But all this has changed, of course, with people like the late, great Anthony Bourdain, who kind of served as an ambassador to open up the mystery of international cuisine. And now a lot of people travel specifically with eating in mind. I do when I'm traveling internationally, the first thing I try to do is find a really good local restaurant. And so Korea has so much of that, from the traditional markets to these little matjibs everywhere. The food, also it's very colorful with all the banchans, the side dishes. It's kind of this really big experience. I remember the first time I sat down for a Hanjeonshik meal in Gyeongju, there were 35 side dishes.
35.
Yeah, I counted. There was 35 side dishes, and I was absolutely gobsmacked by it. I had I felt sorry for the dishwasher. There were so many things to sample, and it was such a revelation for me. So whenever I talk about Korean people, I really emphasize the food, because I think it's really unique. And and it's pungent, spicy, tentacled sort of glory. You get everything: seafood and meat and vegetables, and also the atmosphere. I want to say, is there anything better than sitting down for samgyeopsal, or some galbi at a meat restaurant, and it's smoky and everyone's talking and drinking and laughing, and it's just like it's a party. It's an experience in itself, where the food is almost secondary. So I think it's Korea's greatest asset. So I think it should be more emphasized.
Right, we have best side dishes indeed, and it's really good to hear a lot are now enjoying Korean food and cuisine. Now, Chris, shifting gears a little bit here, when discussing foreign tourists in South Korea, we cannot leave out Chinese visitors. Around 4 months have already passed since China lifted its ban on group tours to South Korea. But the economic effect is failing to meet the industry's hope for market revitalization. And this is reportedly due to a change in Chinese tourist trends. How did it change?
Well, I think, first of all, COVID-19 hit China very hard, and the economy hasn't really rebounded robustly. So I think people just have less disposable income, so they're going to be pickier about how they spend it in their international travel habits, especially. But more importantly, unfortunately, South Korea and China have witnessed a deterioration of relations over the last few years. Things have gone from sort of cold to colder. A lot of this has to do with President Yoon Suk-yeol kind of moving closer to the United States with the alliance with America, which has, of course, rubbed China the wrong way. The administration made some statements about Taiwan that rankled China last year. So I think through probably what is presented in the Chinese media, this rubs off on the taste of the people. And so people are less likely to visit South Korea because they see South Korea as antagonistic towards China, which is unfortunate, but just relations aren't really good right now. And that tends to trickle down to where people choose to travel, because we really tend not to travel to places that we think might not welcome us or that we have bad feelings for. So hopefully China and South Korea can breach this sort of gulf and get back to close relations, because they are neighbors, and both countries have a lot at stake and a lot of interest to keep engaged with each other. So hopefully we'll see that.
Yeah. And so, Professor Che, industries, especially the duty-free market, are trying their best to see a boost in their profits. And car companies, too, are not seeing any increase in profits, as Chinese travelers, they're using more mobile payment applications such as Alipay and WeChat Pay and so on. In what way should industries adapt to such changing trend?
The changing trend you mentioned, necessitated strategy from industry, I think. First of all, most important thing is you need to embrace, mobile payments such as, Alipay, WeChat Pay, and also we need to, collaborate with a mobile payments platform. Not only, that Chinese mobile payments platform, but also there are a lot of, the mobile platform provide a payment service. So industry could work together with the mobile payments platform to offer such as, special promotion or discount. Also, we can think about very innovative duty-free shopping. Not only, solely on airport duty-free shop, we can think about, setting up a downtown duty-free store, also duty-free online store, online shopping. Also, we can improve, digital presence of our, product online, because many consumers research product online before they purchasing. So therefore, a strong online presence is very important. And, lastly, we can think about, personalization strategies. So by leveraging data from mobile payments platform, business can better understand the consumer behavior and preference. So we can, provide and suggest, more personalized product and service based on this information.
All right, a lot to try out. Now, we are running out of time, but I'd like to ask this last question to our Professor Che. Now, today, Korean Prime Minister said South Korea would aim to attract 20 million foreign tourists next year. To make that possible, what additional measures should be in place?
Actually, we need to enhance tourism infrastructure. Not only, the accommodation. So we need to expand the tourism facility and infrastructure, such as, transportation, tourist attraction. Also, we need to provide very diverse tourism offerings, such as, promoting diverse tourism products that appeals to different types of tourists, from cultural and historical tours, and K-beauty and fashion, also wellness tourism. And also we can think about promote sustainable tourism. Not only think about one-time tour, we can think about implement measure to protect and preserve natural and cultural heritage sites. And also we can promote that sustainable tourism can attract environmentally conscious travelers and ensure the long-term feasibility of the tourism industry. And then why don't you think about digital marketing? So we can leverage digital marketing to by utilizing social media influence and digital platform to promote tourism and reach a global audience.
All right, Professor Che, thank you for your advice. Now, unfortunately, this is all the time we have for today's edition. Thank you, Professor Che and Chris, for your time and insights. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
All right, that's all for Within the Frame tonight. We'll be next Monday with more in-depth stories. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the weekend, and goodbye.
Korea. Some people